A rewatch at the beginning of preseason game number 1 leads to some new observations. Plus, Tyrone Corbin with some interesting comments on how you score in the NBA. A rundown of who did well in their first preseason games, and maybe just a little baseball talk. Probably not. It's all next on tip-off. Bum, 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 bum. Giants live. Bum, bum. Can you tell I've never played the drums in my life? Bum, 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 bum. Giants live. Timmy with the win. Bum, bum, bum. Pablo goes deep. Okay. Fired up for the Giants surviving. A's surviving too, but I'm not about to jump that bandwagon. It's just a cool story. And I covered Raul Ibanez when I was in Seattle. He was one of the great guys. The Mariners just kept him down. For 5 years, they just kept him as their 25th guy in the roster doing nothing with a bunch of slugs around. Some pretty good players, actually, on some of those teams. And he finally gets a break to Kansas City, and the Mariners pay him money. Now he's in the Yankees. 2 bombs, one of the great days for the most historic franchise of all time. At 40 years old, unbelievable. Baseball was pretty good last night. The A's come from behind. The drama of A-Rod getting pinch hit for. The Giants forcing a Game 5. All pretty darn good. St. Louis and Washington kind of playing that under the radar. Probably the best teams in the National League, and they're playing the under radar series. So, all right, we don't talk too much baseball, but I thought that was crazy. So I rewatched the first quarter of the preseason game. Yes, I was able to do that. Don't ask. And a bunch of things jumped out at me from rewatching it, and it's funny because I'm really excited that I have access to this because I actually see games much better. I don't see them great when I call it. I don't watch the ball. If I go to a game and I'm just watching, I don't watch the ball. But if I'm calling a game, I have to watch the ball, despite what some of you think. And so it's a nice change for me to be able to. Here are just I wrote down a bunch of notes. You'll see me look down if you're on YouTube for this. And then, by the way, on the audio version, we'll take a bunch of thoughts from the Locke Vent Line today. Remember, the Locke Vent Line is 801-200-3738, or question line. Vent line, question line, 3738 for that. So I don't think those come through on YouTube, so we'll put them on the backside of the YouTube. But on the audio version, you'll get all of them, but that's at the end. All right, Marvin can really run. I know that sounds silly, but that kind of jumped out at me. We talked a little bit yesterday about rebound and go. He does that very well, but then his just ability to run the floor, and maybe he just runs harder, but I think he might be athletic. You know, there's a reason he's a number 2 pick of a draft, and athletically, he may be very special. But he can really run. They hit him on one alley-oop, but he just got down the floor quickly. Some early post-ups. I was surprised he posted up twice in that first quarter. I didn't notice it as much. He missed a turnaround jumper. He hit one. He really can run. Al moved better side to side than I've seen him before. His pick-and-roll defense in the first half wasn't bad, actually. Favors came in and missed one really badly. Millsap got caught on one or two. And just defensively overall, they were pretty good in that first quarter. The only thing they struggled with was Ron talked on the broadcast a lot about second man removed rotations, which I'll have Ron try to explain more and more. And maybe even, if I can, I'll have Ron do a little film session with us to explain it, if possible. Well, I don't know. I'm pushing Ron here. Don't tell him I'm doing these things to him, but there's a chance that I could sit him down in front of a computer and have him talk through some highlights for you and put them up on we're working. We're trying to get better. We're trying to do cool stuff. Just got to let me make mistakes, man. That's all I ask. If I'm going to try all this stuff, you got to let me make mistakes. That's really all I ask. But anyway, I thought he moved side to side far better. Al did. And just defensively, what I was saying before I interrupted myself, because that's what I do, is I've had like 5 shots of espresso this morning. Can you tell? Is recording it later than usual, so I'm awake. The Jazz are making the first rotation fine, and they're making the second rotation okay. But if they've got to make a third rotation right now, no one knows where it's coming from. I think, and it's hard for me actually to look at the film and be like, I think it was Millsap on one that was supposed to head out. There was another with Jefferson. But by the time you're making that third rotation, if you make that third pass, you're asking a big to get all the way out. So that's pretty tough to do. We'll keep an eye on that as we play Oklahoma City on Friday, and then the Lakers on Saturday, and then back on the back-to-backs again on Tuesday and Wednesday. Those back-to-backs will be good because you just kind of keep playing and get it going. I was very impressed with Mo Williams' picks. The old John Stockton cross screen pick for for Carl. Mo got down there and set some nice picks in that first quarter for Al Jefferson. That jumped out at me a little bit. What do I have written down here about Hayward that I cannot read my writing? No idea. Faves misses first pick and roll. I had written down. I'm not sure what I have on Hayward. The Jazz defensive rebounding could be really fabulous this year. That's the other one. They really can become an elite defensive rebound team. Then you can transition better. They can rebound and go, like we talked about. They have this length. Last year, the Jazz defense did a fabulous job at forcing people to take shots from the right spot. They just didn't defend the actual shot very well. And I'm actually pleased with that. That's the first step. Now you get guys a little longer. Hopefully can defend the shot. I think it was in Randy Hollis's piece in the Deseret News about Alec Burks. Corbin made a really interesting comment. Going body first and go vertical, not horizontal. But when a guy like Burks is learning how to drive in the NBA, they've got to come in, go body first, leading with their body so that they're going to get some contact, play off it, and then they got to go horizontal, they got to go vertical, not horizontal. I thought that was a very interesting concept. You watch Burks, he's still trying to avoid all that contact. When he drives through, he's trying to generally avoid that contact, then he draws the foul. But as he avoids the contact, he gets himself in trouble. Hayward's kind of the same way. Gordon's much stronger. He's got to figure out what he can do and what he can't do now that he hasn't been able to before. All right, NBA news. Weber State, Damian Lillard, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 of 11. Started slow, according to all the news reports, then clicked in. Brandon Roy could be a Western Conference game changer if he's healthy. 13 points, 5 of 9 shooting. He had 4 rebounds in that one as well. That could be enormous. Rookie performance of the day, Terrence Jones of Houston had 20 in their game against the Thunder. DeMarcus Cousins has decided to shoot the 3. He went 1 of 3 from 3 for Sacramento. Another good rookie performance, Andre Drummond for Detroit, 12.7 rebounds, 2 blocks. And the story of the preseason so far is Nando Del Colo from another European that the Spurs have picked up. I've mentioned him before. He hit the game winner last night with .09 seconds left, but more importantly, 9 assists. He's very fancy, very kind of a little out of control, not really in the Popovich model, but he's a name worth looking at. I don't think he's a 30-minute-a-night guy, but as Ginobili hits 35 years old, he may be able to play behind Ginobili a little bit. The Spurs don't have a true backup point guard, so if he could play backup point maybe, or he and Gary Neal play dual guard positions, it could be very important, just adding yet another one of those youthful Kawhi Leonard-type pieces to the Spurs. Dwan Blair has played very well for them also. And Jonas Valanciunas made his NBA debut. He had 2 points, no rebounds, 2 blocks in 11 minutes. You know what? The thing on Valanciunas is it's almost, in my opinion, and I've talked about this before, it's almost like by sitting out a year he got better in people's mind. Everyone's so eager to see him, and they think he's going to be so great. And we'll see. I would remind people 2 things that make me wonder whether he'll be that great. One is he had, that was not a great draft class, and so it's hard to project that. Number 2, I didn't like him on film, actually. I didn't like him at all. I didn't think he had skills. I thought he just played hard, which is a value, but that just means he's a guy. And number 3, Kanter kicked his ass every time they went head-to-head. So when they played in the under-18s, I think Kanter dropped, I'd have to look at my notes. I don't have it right here. My memory is Kanter might have dropped 30 and 15 on him. I think Lithuania won that game, but Lithuania should beat Turkey. Here's a really interesting one to follow in the NBA right now. If you're a geek, and if you're a geek, you're probably watching this, or by definition, and that is contracts going on right now with Ty Lawson and Steph Curry. Both of them are due extensions by the 31st of the month, right at opening day. Otherwise, they become restricted free agents. Steph Curry's agent is talking about the possibility of getting a max deal, which seems insane. I mean, he's been hurt. Frankly, he struggles against the best of guys. The other guy is Ty Lawson, who is pretty good. He's a starting point guard, but they're talking about like a 5-year, $60 million deal for Lawson. in Denver. Now, I don't know what these numbers are going to come out to, but I think it's a very interesting case on what you do if you're the Warriors or the Nuggets. You really can't afford to lose these guys. I'm not sure you really want to go to restricted free agency with these guys, with teams like the Jazz having and Atlanta having a lot of money in the offseason and both in need of a point guard. So it's got to be a little nerve-wracking, but you cannot afford to hit big numbers on guys that aren't worth big numbers in the new collective bargaining agreement. So, Steph Curry's really good. I like Steph Curry an awful lot, but is he a top 5 point guard in the NBA? No. Is he a top 10? Maybe. Is he fragile? Yes. Is there a chance he's damaged goods and that ankle's never coming back? Absolutely. Ty Lawson, I think, is wonderful, but he's 5'11". He's a battler. He's a winner. He does a lot of things right. But is he top 5? I don't think so. I'm certain he's not. Is he top 10? I don't think so. Is he 15? Sure. He's good. But what do you pay that? I mean, the problem, it kind of goes back to where Memphis and Atlanta were a few years ago with Joe Johnson and Rudy Gay, that they ended up rolling out the max deal on both these guys, not because they're actually max players, but because they're your guy, and if you lose them, it looks terrible, and it's a pain to replace them, and the replacement cost is really high, and so you end up overpaying. But, Denver's got a lot of money out on a lot of guys right now, none of them huge deals, but you just wonder where they're willing to go to Lawson. So keep an eye on Lawson. I mean, James Harden's out there also. I mean, there's just a lot of really interesting contracts that have to get done by the 31st. And Harden will get most of the pub. But to me, Curry and Lawson are probably the most interesting, and from our standpoint, probably the most interesting, because I would guess that Gordon Hayward will be equivalent to where Curry and Lawson are at his position by the time his contract comes up, and I would guess in some ways Favors is where they are as well. So those are some thoughts for you on that. Keep an eye on them. Let's on YouTube, you're just going to have to, I'll try to paraphrase the question for you the best. I believe on the audio version of this, you will be able to hear it. I might have to be a little tricky. I'm going to take 4 callers that came in recently. I'll cut some of them off because some guys talk for like 2 minutes. The number is 801-200-3738. Here's number 1. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Question is, who will Favors and Cantor be like most in the present or in the past? Spence Checkins, I was on 1280 with Spence, and we talked about Cantor. I don't think we have any idea on Cantor yet. We don't have really a sample size to work with. We don't have really much sign of who he is and where he's going to be. But my thought on him, but he's changing. I mean, my thought on him was always a below-the-rim kind of guy, and he seems to be changing a little bit. But I've always thought of Charles Oakley and Antonio Davis from Indiana type guy. Double-double. I think he'll be a 10-10 guy if he gets time. I think he can be decent defensively. I think he can be a big physical banger and impact the game that way. I don't expect him to be a go-to player. I think offensively he'll actually be a poor man's Carlos Boozer. I think he has a lot of the same skills and he doesn't get up over the rim very much. But so that's kind of what I expect out of Cantor, but that's really faulty because there's just not a lot of sample size on that. And then in regards to Favors, his body is as good as any in the NBA, and the question is going to be, I think defensively he can be Dwight Howard-esque, and then the question is, hopefully Dwight Howard-esque, not DeAndre Jordan-esque. I think he can be, but then the question is offensively. His jumper does not look any better than it did a year ago. This back-to-the-basket game we haven't seen a lot of, but it wasn't strong at all last year, if you recall. So offensively, before he becomes, a real all-star type player, he's going to have to find something that he does really well offensively. All right, let's go to the next one. This is going to be, for those on YouTube, this is going to be about Burks playing point. we'll see if Burks gets much point guard play. That last comment I really think is a pretty quantum leap, the idea that Burks could be the point guard of the future for the Utah Jazz. I mean, wow, we haven't seen him play at all. And that's, that's the only kind of, I guess, theme I'm going to have this year, and I know it's kind of contrary to where everybody else is, and I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback from you guys on this. But my a little bit is, let's be careful on where we take these guys in our minds, because it ends up meaning, if that's the core of your belief, that Favors is Dwight Howard, that Cantor is going to be an all-star, that Burks is the future point guard of the team, that Hayward is, going to be an all-star, then I think you end up in a little bit ending up kind of sending yourself down the road of disillusionment, and you make all your other decisions based on that. There's a real chance that all these guys are just going to be really good NBA players, and that none of them are going to the Hall of Fame, and that none of them are going to be All-Stars. I don't know about Burks at point guard yet. He played a little in the scrimmage. He supposedly had a very good scrimmage behind closed doors earlier this year. We haven't seen much of that. I'd like to see it. I like the dual guard sets. I think I mentioned this yesterday. The Hornets came out with Austin Rivers and Vasquez. I really like that. I'm curious to see those kind of things, and I'd like to see more of that, but I don't think I could go take that leap that he's the point guard of the future. Let's go to the next one. All right, so I'm going to have a 30-second limit on calls just because otherwise everyone gets bored. He liked Quinn. He didn't like Burks. Quinn is probably an NBA player. I just don't think it's going to be on this roster. He's just one of those guys that kind of lives his life right on that fringe. Teams trust him and believe in him, and he probably makes rosters. And also I think he tells a little story about Burks hitting a corner three and saying, I got that, you know what. So kind of a fun story there. Different perspectives on everything. All right, let's head to one more caller. All right, so the story behind why we hate Mark Jackson, he gave us our resume. You don't ever need to give your resume as a fan, but I appreciate it. Your story behind why we, what's up with our hatred toward Mark Jackson and some awful tie that I wear. First, Mark Jackson badmouthed the Jazz organization after his year here. Some people thought he tried to usurp John Stockton a little bit when he was here, and he didn't have particularly great things to say about Jerry Sloan. So that's a lot of it. Then last year he led the tank that got our draft pick, so that's kind of where the Mark Jackson hatred comes from universally. In regards to the awful tie that I always wear, I'm David Locke, not Steve Brown. Oh, just kidding. See ya.